Welcome to the Ministry Mix podcast. My name is Richard, and I'm joined by Phil Gerbil Gifford. How are you doing for real?
All right, hey, welcome to the Ministry Mix podcast, where we're bringing you real conversations for the souls and strategies of ministry leaders. I'm Phil Gifford, and I'm joined by my co-host, Richard Pope.
Yeah!
So whether you're a seasoned pastor and leader or just stepping into church leadership for the first time, we're here to share stories, insights, and practical tips to help you lead strategically while also caring for your soul. Every episode is random, what we feel like talking about. So we'll dive into topics that hopefully still matter for your mission, your calling, and your personal growth.
Today, we feel like talking about something super non-controversial. We're going to talk about the doctrine of election.
Or
I'm kidding.
We can talk about quitting ministry.
Yeah, which is also kind of controversial. Yep. I think today what's interesting to me is we live in a world, even in ministry, where it's like very self-help based. A lot of the advice coming to pastors now seems to be kind of coming from that self-help, spiritual camp, which I don't think is necessarily bad. Like self-awareness, therapy, mental health, all those things matter.
Yeah.
But there does seem to be this kind of trend of like, it's okay to quit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, I don't know, tenacity is something that I feel like we just, sometimes I'll be like, bro, ministry's hard. And sometimes people do mean things. It should not.
Oftentimes.
It should not be a crisis. And we also don't want to be little. There are moments where you want to quit.
Right. 100%.
I got to tell you, we probably differ in this. You can tell me if I'm wrong. I cannot think of really a time where I've seriously said, I wish I could quit ministry. I've wanted to leave ministry positions before. Like, I don't like being at this church, or I don't like being in this opportunity, but like, I've never really wanted to, I think, quit. And I actually asked Pam, like, Pam, am I just remembering more positively myself than I should?
Yeah.
And she's like, there's been times where you said, if I had a counseling degree, maybe I'd go open up a practice, or if I did this, I would go teach in a high school or whatever. But I really can't think of a serious time where I was actually thinking about quitting ministry and moving on. So I think that's weird, right? But I mean, definitely the churches, right? Like you have some bad, like I've definitely thought about quitting the churches where I've been at and going to different places.
Yeah. For me, I don't think I've ever had a serious thought as much as I've had like a fleeting thought.
Yeah.
Or like a frustrated thought. Which I even think some of the actions we have today will address. So why don't we just jump into it?
Yeah, I agree.
The first one, the first action, first thing, ministry leader, if this is you, you're considering quitting, or you're just burnt out, or you're struggling, is look back. I think of Psalm 117, praise the Lord, all nations, extol him, all peoples. Great is his steadfast love, and his faithfulness endures forever. And then it ends with the refrain, praise the Lord. You know, when you look backwards at what God's done, not just in your ministry, I would include that, but when you look back at what God's done in the redemptive history of the world,
right?
How God has moved mountains, literally, how God has like changed and worked and saved. Man, when you see the bigness of the sovereignty of God, it's a lot easier to rest in the frustrated moments of ministry.
Yeah. They joke around about carrying your resignation, like don't resign on Monday, right?
Yeah.
Because something happens on Sunday and it frustrates you. And when I go back to what I said about not really wanting the moment to quit ministry, I don't want to belittle anybody who has really thought about quitting ministry. I just got a weird personality, but looking back,
yeah, you do.
You enjoyed that. So, but I think the idea of looking back, if you can go back to your calling, if you can go back to if you can look back to when God called you into ministry, if you can look back to God's pattern of faithfulness and doctrine of who God is, but even look back to some of the fruit. You mentioned that before, like look back to the way God has worked through your ministry. You might have had a bad Sunday, but if you think about the scope of your ministry and how God has been faithful and how God has sustained and how God has worked, that'll at least help you to reposition yourself in your quitting moments.
I agree.
So the second one is to look forward, look back and look forward.
Yeah.
And by like looking forward, like for me, okay, let's say I say I want to quit. I'm just going to go teach high school English, or I'm going to go open up a counseling practice, or I'm going to go back to my Italian butcher, like meat market, odd job days. One of the things that I have to ask myself is look forward in 2 years or 3 years or 10 years. And will the thing you think will satisfy you actually satisfy you? Like, is this frustration and is this disappointment or discouragement, is it going to last the test of time to where I still feel that way after that bad Sunday, or like a month from this bad Sunday. So what are you going to think about this issue a year down the road or 10 years down the road? Does that make sense?
No, it makes a lot of sense. And not just, if I could just add, I don't think it's just, how will I feel later? It's, you don't know what's going to happen around the corner. Yeah. And I think the potential of tomorrow for me is often enough to get me to rest today.
Yeah. Like, that's really good.
Tomorrow could be worse, but it could also be better.
Yeah.
I love Jesus's words. Don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow has enough trouble. Mm-hmm. But I don't know, man. I can think of Sundays where I was discouraged. Even recently, at time of recording, there was a Sunday that was super good. Baptisms, tons of attendance, but there were a lot of little things.
Yeah. And
I was just like, forget it. Screw it. I don't want to do it anymore.
Is this when we were playing Fortnite together?
Yeah. I had a phone call with a mentor, a former mentor, that kind of stung a little. It was just a bad day. I felt a little bit betrayed. I felt beaten down.
Not valued.
And I almost felt guilty because I couldn't celebrate all the good God was doing. And Sunday night, I was ready to throw it away. And then Monday morning, I came to staff meeting. And by the end of staff meeting, I was like, man, everything's great. So just give tomorrow a chance.
Yeah.
That would be a piece of advice. Give tomorrow a chance.
Yeah. Look forward.
Yeah.
I'll give you one practical example before I move to our next one. I think, one of the times I even told Pam, it was Easter morning. So people from our church listen to this. I hope it doesn't expose too much of my own immaturity, but why not? We're pretty open on this podcast. Easter 2024. Our church was struggling. Like, we weren't growing. We weren't seeing a lot of new guests. And we were just like, I don't think that I can maintain this any longer. I think that maybe I was wrestling with the question of maybe somebody else needs to come in and lead this. And I had personally made a commitment the month leading up before Easter that I was going to personally invite 100 people to come to our Easter service to celebrate Easter with us.
Yeah, I remember that.
And 2 people showed up from those invites, which was awesome. But also 2% showed up. Yeah. And there was some of the same family. So one family from those 100 people I invited showed up. And I looked out, and it was a great Sunday. It was an encouraging Sunday, but we just didn't see a lot of new people. And I'm like, if this is our Easter, what is our what's the trajectory of our church going to be?
Wow.
And I remember Pam walked up to ask me something, and I think I pretty much, I don't know if I just trauma dumped on her or frustration dumped, whatever you want to call it at the moment, just before I was leading worship. And, that's great, right? And she's like, just chill. But a month after that, our church really started praying. And that's when the growth actually started.
Wow.
So just 1 month down the road from that moment of I want to move on. So look forward. I would also add to the next one I would say, because it kind of piggybacks to what you said. Sunday night, you wanted to quit or you were frustrated. And then the next day you went to staff meeting. I would say that the third thing we want to do is wait. I know that's jumping on our list a little bit, but I think that
that's good.
I think if you just give it some space,
you
may think differently the next morning.
Literally, you could wake up tomorrow and feel different. Here's something I found, because that's a small example. There's long examples. I can think of a 2-3 week run where I just was like, dude, I just didn't want to do it. I just
tired,
drained,
frustrated.
Especially when we lost the building. I mean, it all worked out, but I'll share this story.
In the moment, you don't think it's going to work out. You don't know it's going to work out, though.
Well, yeah, and this kind of goes with look back, look forward, and wait all at once. So maybe it's a good way to cap those. So we lost our building last week of September, and we had a week. We found a temporary location. We had the potential of merging with the church we ended up merging with, Faith Community, where we're recording right now.
Yeah, in your awesome office.
$10 million building. In the study. Thanks, R.C. Sproul. He called his a study. But, we're sitting right now at recording in a $10 million building downtown, exactly where we wanted to be, really where we wanted to be. The other building where we were meeting for a couple of years was kind of where, it was near where we wanted to be.
But it wasn't where you wanted to be.
Yeah, I wanted to be in the heart of the city, and we were 2 blocks out. Now I'm only across the street, which is a huge difference. I wanted to quit. I was tired. We couldn't find a building. We didn't know if we could even afford a building. I mean, honestly, we're like, can we even afford a building? If
we are hanging out and talking this whole time. Maybe I'm not the guy to lead this. I'm not wired for this. I don't. There's just questions that you're going through.
Yeah. Well, so here's what's incredible. So Pastor John, who was the lead pastor of Faith Community, drove by our building where we used to meet, the blank blank center, the first, I'm not saying it, the first week of September. And he saw Andrew, one of our elder candidates' wife and fiance at the time, where they were cleaning up from our coffee. We set up coffee outside on a busy street. Homeless people would stop. People in cars would sometimes stop and get coffee. Cool. It was just a cool way to like serve our community. And I think it's part of our growth. It's like, oh, something's happening here, right? What's crazy is he stopped. He talked to Maddie, who's a member of our church, wife of one of our pastors, and he gets to the church and he tells his wife, he says, Kathy, Pastor John's wife, he says, I found the church God wants us to merge with. That happened 3 weeks before we lost our building.
That's crazy.
So like, if I look backwards, I see God's faithfulness, which makes me think that if God's never changing, if I look forward, I'll see God's faithfulness.
Yep.
I think of the verse, Isaiah 40:31, those who wait on the Lord will have their faith renewed. So that's like I think that's the only like guaranteed investment in the world is faith. Yeah. If I put my faith in Jesus, it will return good. Yeah. Every time. And I think waiting is like the catalyst for that. Right? Like if God's not redeemed, if God's not shown up yet, then the only thing you can do is wait.
Yeah. I texted a guy who's kind of going through some frustrating conflict and kind of being accused of some things. Just like, I don't know what to do. Cause like the justice meter wants to fight, but it was Psalm 37:34. Wait on the Lord and keep his way. He will exalt you. You will watch as the accusers, the wicked, they're destroyed. And he says, watch the blameless and the person of peace. They have a future. And so like put yourself in a position of waiting, doing what God called you to do. And if I had to sum up these first three, I'd say this. Decisions to quit ministry should not be reactive. They should be intentional and strategic. And so like think about these things. But the kind of pivoting, let's get to some more practical, or not more practical, but just a different kind of practical. Sure. I think before you quit, an action to take is to examine your rhythms and your soul health. There was a time when I was super depressed and discouraged. It wasn't about ministry. It was just my own life and my own soul. And I was like thinking about moving on to a different church. So, first thing you do when you're discouraged and you're in a dark place is blame other people for it's my church, it's my staff, it's my whatever. Right. Rather than looking inside, in your own life and trying to adjust. But I was mowing the lawn and listening to a sermon. I don't remember what the sermon was about even, but I remember thinking, and just kind of praying through this and kind of God was convicting me. How are you doing with your Bible reading? How are you doing with your prayer time? How are you doing seeking after me? And basically like, don't quit ministry from a place of spiritual unhealth. Like make those decisions from a place of health. And I'm not saying that I probably needed some Sabbath. I probably needed some time off. Like, I'm not saying don't do what you need to do. Like, don't get healthy to take time off, but like, I needed to examine my own rhythms first before moving on, before changing ministries. I had some unhealth there. Does that kind of make sense on your end?
No, it completely does. I mean, here's the thing. A lot of times I think.
A lot of times you think? Long pause.
I think a lot of times, and I'm guilty of this, right? So this is coming from, it's coming from a student, not a teacher. Yeah. I think a lot of times we will make decisions out of our own unhealth. Yeah. And we'll view a situation through bad lenses. I remember when I was in high school, there was like this Moms Against Drunk Driving or something. They'd always come to the high school, and they had the glasses that made you think that made that. Do you know what I'm talking about? They distort your vision, so it makes your vision blurry and shaky. Basically, you put on these glasses, and it's like, this is what it's like if you're drunk. I think a lot of times when we're not in the Word, when we're not praying, when we're not Sabbathing, we're not seeing clearly. It's like we're seeing through the lens of unhealth. And I think looking at your life through the lens of unhealth will always lead you to more pessimism, more negativity, more frustration than looking through the lens of health. I remember someone saying, never leave a church because you don't like it. Leave a church because you're called away. And I think that's kind of true. Like,
don't run from something, run to something. I think I've said it before. Yeah. And we test, like, as people who have done church planting, training, and assessing, that's kind of what we're looking for, right? We're not looking for somebody that's like running. They're tired of being the youth pastor at this job or tired of this, but like God actually has a burden in their life. And I think Pam and I have one of our close friends. She teaches middle school or taught middle school in Tennessee. And middle schoolers are fun. But like sometimes when middle schoolers start getting antsy with her, should be like, do you need a snack?
Right.
Do you just need to put your head on your desk and take a short little rest? Like, do you want to go get a drink of water? I'm like rather than like escalating the conflict, she's just like, why don't you take a break?
Yeah.
And I think from a spiritual standpoint, isn't that true? Like, have you been actually doing the rhythms? And it might be as simple as that. Are you not sleeping well? Are you getting outside and exercising? Are you reading your Bible? Are you praying? Are you in community? Like the things that kind of help you see clearly, you should do before you react and quit or want to quit. So yeah, honestly, sometimes I don't even know my rhythms are unhealthy because like you kind of just get into the grind until I'm reacting in a way I don't think I should be reacting.
Yeah.
It's not my posture to quit something.
Wow. Yeah.
But when I feel like I want to quit, I go, what's going on? It gives like a warning sign.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when I move the next one, I keep digging into this one a little more.
No, I think it's good because I think actually the next one is a part of this one.
Yeah, all these were so random that we put together, but they seem to flow well from one to the next. If
you're looking through those drunk glasses, I'm going back to that.
Yep.
If you're looking through the lens of unhealth, one of the best things you can do is talk to someone else. Not just for encouragement and support, yes, those, but also for an outside perspective.
Yeah. And the best place to do that is
Fortnite.
Of course.
Is that where we were going with this?
Yes.
Yeah. So Phil and I, and it's not...
This is another Fortnite episode.
Listen, I sound like the mentally ill person right now, but it's been both of us. There's been times where we've been on Fortnite, just... How do I say it, Phil?
However you want to say it, but I cannot edit it.
So there was a season where there were cars on Fortnite, and there were these gloves. They were called Nitro Fists, and the whole premise of Nitro Fists
is just to beat somebody up. With them.
Well, you could like rocket into the sky, and then you could just hit people with them.
Yes.
Sometimes I'll play other game modes that have Nitro Fists.
Because you like to hit people.
Yeah, just because I like Nitro Fists. I literally remember playing Fortnite one time with Phil, and I don't know if you remember this. You were not in the best place. It was around that Easter time, actually, I think.
Okay.
And you just, there was this guy we weren't playing with him. He was random in Fortnite. And you just kept telling me to throw his body at you where you could try and hit him into the water or something.
I don't remember.
Phil didn't even pick up a gun that game. Phil literally just ran around with Nitro Fists punching cars. But I say all that to say this. You need friends. Listen, you need friends who will give you space to do that.
Yeah.
It's just funny. We're like, right now there's a baseball bat on Fortnite. And I just imagine that in the next couple of months, there's going to be a night where we just run around and hit people with baseball bats.
Yeah, but it doesn't. And again, Ministry Leader, if you already tuned it out, Fortnite has become our safe place to have these conversations and be silly and be goofy.
To Nitro Fist people.
To hit people with baseball bats and not get fired from ministry or arrested. But like when you were at this low point, like you jumped on.
I got very descriptive about Nitro Fist.
Yes, you did. Like I don't know that we needed that in our podcast episode, but here we are.
It's there now forever.
Yeah, Brad will like it.
Yeah.
And so I think finding people to talk to when you want to quit, because most ministry leaders, like if you were honest with the pastor that you're working with or the board that you're working with and said like, I feel like I want to quit. Like there are some boards who would like just tell you to quit,
right?
And like or quit you, like say to your result. Well, I'll take your resume tomorrow. There aren't always safe places to express the frustrations of ministry and to be that sounding board to help you see clearly the situation.
Yeah.
And so find people like that, whether it's on Fortnite or on a walk or going to coffee. Talk to someone about their frustrations. Because I do remember in certain situations, whether we're just being goofy together or actually just trying to help each other see perspectives. Like Sunday, a couple that week when you were having that low moment, I remember just saying, dude, you've done this, you've done this, you've done this. Like your church is this. It's like actually just like all I'm doing is saying things you already know.
Sure.
But you need to hear from somebody else.
Absolutely.
And so talk to somebody, talk to the right somebody. And
talking to the wrong somebody, if we could take a minute, not a message there.
No.
I say that in my sermon. This is a minute, not a message. Someone should earn your trust before you like tell them you want to quit. Mm-hmm. You gotta be careful who you say that to. And I don't want to say that and make pastors more guarded because I feel like we tend towards guardedness.
Yeah.
But the wrong friends are not great in these moments. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I have a ministry friend. He's a youth pastor. Well, was a youth pastor. And he told his like best friend from high school who was a member of that church that he was a youth pastor at, man, I just want to quit. and that best friend was the pastor's son. Friend told pastor, the senior pastor fired the youth pastor on the spot. And he said, hey, if you're out, then you're out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so like telling the right people.
Yeah. And like from a cultural standpoint, we've got to set up safe places. We've got to set up safe church cultures where it's okay to be frustrated. I mean, go back to Elisha, right? Who was like, I'm done. And like, just
no more. No, thank you.
went on a walk. The Lord met with him. Like, if God's prophets get frustrated, why can't pastors who are serving, or ministry leaders who are serving, why not give them space to be frustrated?
I agree.
So kind of to piggyback off that, as our last action you should take is ask for help.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the reason for this is sometimes when we are ready to quit ministry, there are practical things that are fueling that. It's not just spiritual battle. It's not just a momentary low. Maybe you're doing things in ministry that either they're outside of your giftedness, or that are just, they're pulling you from what you're good at.
Right.
So somebody who is heavily gifted relationally is busy doing paperwork for the church. Yeah, I would want to quit that too. Or somebody that's like really good at designing and building systems is just maintaining, right? So sometimes we find ourselves, there's things we need to delegate that will help us find joy in ministry again. Would you say that's true of you too in your church?
Yeah, I would say ask for help.
I would even, there's lots of ways to ask for help.
Yeah, it could be going to therapy.
Yeah.
It could, but I like the lane that you walk down with that. Recently, we actually have some interviews coming up with him in some episodes. A guy who was a deacon in our church who had some Bible education from Liberty, stepped into an elder candidacy role. So he's in like the 6-month trial period before we ordain him as a pastor. He's going to be our worship pastor for the last, the church is almost 4 years old. By the time this comes out, we'll probably be 4 years old. I oversaw worship, but for the last 3 months, I handed worship off. And dude, even though it wasn't that many hours of my week, the amount of thought, thinking, stress, etc. that I handed off,
just you carry it.
Yeah, it relieved a giant burden. So don't be afraid. We just said this. We were eating lunch. We were eating cheeseburgers with pink buns from Mad Hatter in Salisbury, and candied bacon or something, and truffle fries and crab dip. Yeah, that's why I feel sick to my stomach still. But we talked about finding someone who does something better than you and rapidly handing it off.
Yeah.
Make sure their character is there. After the character is there, give it to them.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you're less likely to want to quit ministry when you feel like you're doing what God has gifted you to do and gives you passion. So, ask for help. That might mean you need prayer. Hey, would you pray for me? I feel like quitting. That might mean you need practical help, delegate things. That might mean you need to get more organized, biblical counseling, pastor mentors, but don't just sit in that. Find a way based on what you're going through to look for help.
Yeah.
So, hey, ministry leader, you're doing valuable work.
At least we hope you are.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Anybody that listens to our podcast and the rich wisdom that we throw out there is clearly doing valuable work, right? Like playing Fortnite and hitting people with bats.
Playing Fortnite, having a skeleton in their office.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because most people have skeletons in their closet. You just throw it right here on the couch.
Okay, for context, I was preaching Ezekiel chapter 37, and I was going to bring a science classroom skeleton on stage. I never did. So the staff at Canvas decided his name is Zach, and he just lives in the study.
Yeah, he's sitting behind me watching me right now.
Yeah, we put him in different poses. Sometimes I put him in the YMCA poses. Yeah. No one needed to know that.
Yeah, well, he's with us. You may feel like Zach, burnt out and tired.
Yeah, let's just tie that off.
Oh, yeah, why not? Put a little bow on that. Chances are you're wanting to quit is probably not. It could be from a season or it could be from a moment. But either way, these are 6 actions that will help you hopefully pray more deeply about this, think more deeply, and get to a place where maybe ministry quitting or at least stepping back is what God needs you to do in the season.
Right.
Take some time and focus in on that.
Yeah. I think that's it.
Any last thoughts, Richard?
They just wait on the Lord. Will have their faith renewed. So wait well.
Hey, thanks for tuning into this episode of the Ministry Mix podcast. I hope you found today's discussion valuable. Make sure if you did like what you heard and you want to hear more, make sure you hit the subscribe button so that way you can never miss one of our episodes. We'd love it if you take a minute and leave a review so that way your feedback and your engagement with us will help get this podcast before leaders just like you. We'd love to interact with you more. So if you have questions or topics that you'd love for us to talk about, be sure to connect with us on social media and ask them, comment on them, let us know. Hey, if there's an action that you find helpful that we didn't list, comment on our post. Let us know what would also help. But until next time, keep leading with purpose and caring for your soul.
Nitro Fest!